Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Montgomery County, I'd like to welcome you to the Rockville City Candidate Forum. I'm Elaine Apter, co-president of the League of Women Voters, and I will be your moderator today. In the front row is Diane Habino, who will be the timekeeper. The forum will be divided into two parts. The first half hour will be devoted to the mayoral candidates, and the second part will be devoted to the councilmatic candidates. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the mayoral candidates, Phyllis Marcuccio and Peter Gajewski. And the format of the forum will be that each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an introductory statement, and then we will have questions from the audience that have been screened, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The questions will be alternated between the candidates, and then there will be a 2-minute closing statement for each candidate. The criteria for the questions are, one, that the issue has not been discussed at this forum already. The question is clearly stated, and the question is an issue that is relevant to the race. So without further ado, we tossed a coin, and Ms. Marcuccio is the first to give her opening statement.
Thank you. Well, I'll stand up for if it's all right with the cameraman. I hope that all these warm folks in here are going to warm us up. I don't know about you, but I am cool at the moment. Anyway, I'm Phyllis Marcuccio. I've lived in Rockville since 1942. I live in a house my dad built, and with my sister also is in Rockville. It's been my hometown for, how many years? You can count it up. I went to Richard Montgomery High School. I graduated and went off to college, went off to work in New York City, in Denver, Colorado, in Florida. I have been lots of places, but Rockville is my home. And I have such an affinity for this hometown. I want to protect it. I want to see it prosper. I want to see it move into the future with what I would call a managed growth plan. Not just willy-nilly, not just what developers want to do, but what our citizens want to have happen. So that is my primary concern. It's the only reason I'm interested in running. You know, it's not about me, this election. This election is about you. And what do you want? Now, what have I done? Oh, I've done lots of things. I've been on the council for a couple of terms, and then I decided I couldn't get anything done, so I thought I'd be mayor. It's not any easier. But there are lots of things we have done. We have taken the mayor and council on the road. We actually packed up everybody and took them to other parts of the city. My whole message here has been the citizens of the city need to be partners in what kind of future, what kind of decision-making happens in the city. And I'm incredibly dedicated to that. Oh, 15 seconds. I only have 15 seconds. Well, I will tell you lots more as the time goes on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gajewski.
Good evening. I'm Peter Gajewski, and it's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this. The League of Women Voters is the gold standard for these kinds of events, and I'm just thrilled to have you hosting it. I'd like to introduce my family. My wife, Tisha, is in the back. She just got here through traffic. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, this evening. And my dad, Richard, moved to Rockville just a few years ago to Ingleside from Southern California. So you can see how I believe in Rockville. That's him over there. Important issues in this election for me is relationships that we have with other governments, relationships with the state government, with the county government, with the public school system. We were asked on Saturday in a similar forum like this, what grade would we give Rockville in terms of our relationships with those entities? And Mayor Marcuccio answered C. So I can't say I disagree. I think there is room for improvement in that area. So if elected, I would very much like to make a priority building relationships, in fact, with Montgomery County, where we've had some stumbles in the last 2 years, and with Montgomery County Public Schools, where we also had some stumbles. We actually prevented putting up some portable classrooms at a school, which is now not serving us well. So if elected, I pledge to meet with all the leaders on regular basis, so that after 2 years of my being mayor, I'll be able to proudly declare we get a grade of A for our relationships. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll now get to the questions that have been given to me, and they have been screened, and some of them came by email, so we'll have quite a variety. But I think I will start with what seems to be one of the number one questions, and that is that of affordable housing. And a lot of people have said things like 38% of the households pay more than 30% of their income for housing, and it's estimated that Rockville needs about 8,000 affordable housing units. How would you deal with the affordable housing problem? Mr. Gajewski?
Well, it is a major problem in our area, and we all know it, and almost every one of us knows a person that's actually being pushed out of their home because they can no longer afford it. I live in King Farm, where affordable housing is mixed in very well in our scheme of things. My townhome is as far away from here as maybe the end of this building from an MPDU building, and we coexist wonderfully, and it works well for us. It can work well all over the city. I have been proud to support affordable housing throughout my 4 years on the council, and I've stood up for it. I've even taken some lumps for it from some neighborhoods. But I think it's an important thing, and I like to say that we are so lucky in Rockville that we don't have to build housing. The city of Rockville doesn't. We have do-gooders in our city, 501c3 organizations that will build them for us. All we need to do is duck and get out of the way, and it's wrong when we can't even see our way to doing that. Now, one other thing that I will say is that affordable housing has to do with our tax rate, because for old people especially staying in their home, if their taxes go up, that's when they're forced out of their home. And I've been an advocate for keeping our taxes down, not just talking about it, but actually doing something about it. In these last 2 years, we had an issue whether to hold on to a $100 homeowner tax credit, which I advocated that we keep. And unfortunately, it's somewhere Mayor Marcucci and I differed this time around. 2 years ago, we were together on this issue, and we kept solidarity. But this time, she decided that we couldn't afford it. I think we should have afforded it. We should have found cuts to be able to see our way clear to not raising taxes this last time around. So if I'm mayor, we will not raise taxes. We will live within our means.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Marcuccio?
Well, I have always had trouble with what is meant by affordable housing. Now, I live in a house which I would consider affordable housing, yet I have to pay incredible taxes for it. When we talk to the developers who are going to put more housing in the city, they say they're going to put a portion of that housing for affordable housing. But most of the development community wants to put more expensive housing in the city. We have to look at this very carefully, because what we're finding is in some of our communities, some of our neighborhoods, people are doubling up in their houses because they can't afford the rentals or they can't afford the condos that are in the city. We have to see what can we do to try to improve that aspect of affordable housing. You know, there's no more land left in Rockville. There's very little. There's an infill lot here or there. That's not going to solve our problem. I'd like to comment about that $100 rebate. Do you know where that came from? That came from me. Way back when I was first on the council, I said I'd like to see 2 cents off our rate. 2 cents off your 32.2 cents you were paying per 100. I got a penny off, and the city manager said, I can't give you another penny, but I'll give you a $100 rebate. Boy, you just grab it. And we were able to keep that going for several years. In fact, I managed to get the tax rate down to 29.2, which is what you're paying right now. 3 cents less than when I came into office. We got to a point where we got hit by the economy just like you did, just like everyone else. You cannot get blood out of a turnip. Now, if I had read, excuse that, ignore it. Excuse me. I'm going to give you my phone. Sorry, I forgot to turn it off. Always get caught. In any case, the point is, we have a lot to do that is not just affordable housing. We have to look at the budgeting we've got and what we can do for our community. In addition, we have raised the eligibility level for people who need that $100.
Okay,
I
thank
said
you.
stop.
Okay, we'll give you a little more time because you will start with this question, and there is a follow-up question that is on quite a few cards, and that is, how do you feel about rent control? So you can continue on.
To continue
Yes.
on that? Well, rent control helps the individual that is on a fixed income in particular, or on an individual who has really a very low income. I think rent control is an important issue for us. We've never really dealt with it here in the city. We've not built any kind of rent control program, but rather with public housing or housing that comes under our Rockville Enterprises. That is the only area where there is a rent control process in place. And as you said, or I think it was you or Mr. Gajewski said, that 30% of an individual's income when you are in some kind of subsidized housing automatically goes to rent. So where do you start with a rent control item? I think we haven't examined that one at all. I'd be more than delighted to do so. I think it's important because we have much more in the rental world than we ever had before in the city. I'd like to see the city look at how our rentals are being handled. Now, we started out in town center as a condo development. And the economy said, no, we can't afford that. People aren't going to buy. So they had to be turned into rental units to make them viable. That may happen in a lot more places in the city. So we may need to look at a rent control process and problem. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gajewski?
On the issue of rent control, we've never had it in the city of Rockville, as Ms. Marcuccio said, and it's a difficult proposition. But the good news is we don't need it if we allow builders, do-gooders, to build affordable housing. If we allow more MPDUs, we already require. I mean, we have rent control in a sense because we require a portion of any new development to be affordable housing. So that that in itself acts as rent control, but it's not rent control per se on people who are renting at market value. I would not be supportive of rent control for market value rentals. But what we do need to do is we need to build more housing. And allocate more housing for folks who are not making the median here in Rockville, Montgomery County, who are making are making a living, but we need them in our community, and workforce housing, our firemen, our policemen. So we need to be building that housing. Rent control, no. The mayor mentioned that with respect to this $100 credit, tax credit, that she started. I wasn't on the council when that started, so I give the mayor full credit for that. But when we came up on hard times this year, now it really meant something important. And the mayor said, well, we were hit by a hard economy, so we had to give it up. No, absolutely not. We were hit by the hard economy, so we should have made the appropriate cuts. We should not have raised taxes. And if I'm mayor, I will lead a coalition on the council. I will unite the council so that we don't raise taxes. We'll find a way to live within our means.
Okay, thank you very much. Along with housing, traffic seems to be another problem in Rockville. We've had some questions just about how would you deal with the traffic problems, and some people are asking about maybe working with the timing of the lights. So, Mr. Gajewski, how would you try and solve? You go first on this one.
Absolutely. The traffic is a problem, and we have to deal with it. And I'll speak to traffic specifically. But with regard to lights, traffic lights, the question I get most often about traffic lights, in fact, I answered one today by email, is on streets that are not controlled by the city of Rockville. Rockville Pike. Or today I answered a question about Shady Grove. And we need to do a better job advocating with Montgomery County that has the authority for those lights. Anyway, so that's a place where we need to do better. In terms of traffic in general, our biggest threat right now in terms of traffic comes from outside our borders. White Flint Sector Plant. Oh my goodness, Walmart on our south border? Are you kidding me? No way, not if I'm mayor. We're going to be advocating for, we can't have that. But in order for us to be successful in advocating, we need to have good relationships. And if our grade right now is a C, that's, we will not be listened to. So advocacy is where it's at. We also have another development toward north, the Seneca Science City. That's going to pour into our roads. We need to make sure that we advocate that that's taken into account when those developments are approved, if they are approved, but there's no stopping the county. But we gotta get our share so that we can take the money and invest in our infrastructure, which will be negatively impacted by that. But it's all about relationships and making sure that we meet all the time and not just go to boards that they're talking. Go to the top, meet with the county executive, meet with the chair of the county council. These are important issues. The legislators here need to be meeting with our counterparts there on a regular basis, one-on-one, ironing these things out. That's what I'll do when I'm mayor.
Well, everybody should have a Segway. Come on, that'll get us around town. That's a couple of campaigns ago. I rode a Segway around on the Saturdays at the city market, and it was kind of fun. It's true. A lot of these problems we have aren't necessarily of our making. They come from other places. Mr. Gajewski mentions the Greater Seneca Science Corridor Plan. What did I do about that? I went to the county council. I testified in front of the county council. I helped get with Mayor Katz of Gaithersburg, I helped get a committee appointed which would monitor what is going to happen to their city and our city when it comes to the impact of the Greater Seneca Science Center. And I've been attending those meetings almost monthly. We have been working as hard as we can to get traffic studies for our two communities. The folks doing the Greater Seneca development say, oh, well, that's not our problem. Those traffic studies have to be done within your cities with your funds. And we have at last convinced the county that these folks have got to do traffic studies for us. So I'm not sure what Mr. Gajewski is referring to when he says we are not actively engaged with the county council, with all the officials that are involved in these areas. Absolutely. I've been talking with them for ages about these things. It takes time to make some progress, and we have made the progress. They do not do the next step without consulting with us. That was a landmark, to get a committee that the county would put in place that allows both our cities to have an input in what's going to go on between our two communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One of the first items the new mayor and council must do is to select a new city manager. What qualifications in a candidate for this position will you be looking for? Ms. Mercutio? It's your turn.
Well, whether it's a lady or a man, it ought to be someone who cares a great deal about keeping a community whole. Rockville is a pretty complex place. We have over 500 employees right now. That takes a CEO to keep it operating properly with excellent lieutenants. And we need someone that has that skill. But we also need someone that knows how to communicate with the community and with the council. Now, that doesn't mean just sending memos out. It means connecting with the issues that we have in mind, sitting down and back and forth, negotiating what's best, arriving at that, and then together making a plan. That's extremely important. Obviously, they need to be smart. They need to be well-trained. I would like to think they've been a city manager before. I think that they have to have the kind of qualifications that anybody in a leadership role should have. And that is the ability to take an issue and walk straight ahead, knowing that there are going to be others following behind them and helping them do it. They don't need angst in their operations. They need to be able to cultivate a warm, comfortable city hall with an invited place for all of the citizens of the city to always feel comfortable. Now, we have some things in place right now that are absolutely wonderful. I wouldn't want to lose those. We've got to keep our citizen relationship going. That is prime. I also would like to think that this individual will have the ability to inspire their leaders, their individual directors, to do the things that need to be done. We need also a very clear connection with what's going on in all of the entities in the city, the court system, the county system, Montgomery College, all of the various aspects of this city that make us a county seat.
Thank you. Mr. Gajewski?
Well, I certainly like to point to our current city manager, Scott Ellery. I think he's a model city manager. He's been with us for 7 years. I'm sorry that he's retiring. He was hired by Mayor Giamo and that council, and has served Mayor Giamo through the difficult times of putting the town center together. He then served under Mayor Hoffman, and then he served under Mayor Marcuccio. And I have nothing but praise for him. He takes his job seriously. He works at it 24/7. The one thing that has stifled him most recently has been his relationship with the current mayor. It's no secret that at his last contract renewal, we had a vote, and the mayor voted against our city manager Scott Ellery's contract renewal, and that was unfortunate. And had she prevailed, his contract would have ended then. I'm glad that he served a little bit longer. It wouldn't surprise me that his retirement has something to do with the fact that he was subject to that. But anyway, so it's important that we agree how our government functions, and that the mayor gets along and walks hand in hand with our next city manager. Now, the next city manager obviously needs to be somebody very strong. I also share Mayor's hope that it will be someone who is managing a city right now. I think we need somebody exquisitely experienced, smart, totally dedicated, and being able to work in an environment where he has 5 bosses. When you think about it, this is a very unusual job. So I look forward to the process if I'm on the council.
Okay, thank you. All right. We have had, again, a lot of questions on the APFO, which for those of us who are not Rockville, the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance. So to kind of put them all together, what do you see as the future of the AFPO? What's going to happen with it? What do you believe in? Okay, you're first.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, the APFO is the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance. Now, APFOs work extremely well in areas that are still developing. So in our frame here, areas like Clarksburg. The city of Rockville is almost a fully developed city. I mean, as the mayor mentioned a little bit earlier, there aren't many lots to be developed. So I fully embrace the intent of the APFO, which is that we have infrastructure in place before we do any further development. But there isn't much development to be had. There is perhaps some some redevelopment to be had. But when people mention APFO in Rockville, they're talking about school overcrowding. That is what's driving this issue, is school overcrowding. And, you know, schools have become more crowded in the last 2 years, and it's not the mayor's fault, it's not my fault, it's because there's a generational turnover. And it's not because we developed added new housing. So this is not the reason. So the one thing I want to caution against is that APFO is going to somehow save us from school overcrowding or even make a dent in it. So we have to be careful how we approach it. Right now it's being studied by a committee. We're looking forward to their recommendations, and we'll move forward. I have to say the one bit of damage that the APFO did do to us is earlier I said that we prevented the putting up of portable classrooms for the College Garden Elementary School. That was the APFO at work. The school system went ballistic over that, as they well should have. They went to the state and tried to get our planning powers taken away from us. Fortunately, we were able to head it off. The mayor and I cooperated in voting in amendments to fix that aspect of the APFO. It was an unintended consequence, and we need to look at other unintended consequences very carefully.
Thank you. Ms. Mercutio?
The APFO is really the only tool we have at the moment in our toolbox to control or guide our development. We have no way of saying you can't build more unless we have some relationship to our infrastructure. Obviously, roads are a part of our infrastructure. The schools are part of our infrastructure. And interestingly, we have no control over the Montgomery County Public Schools. All we can do is say to the school systems, wait a minute, you have so overcrowded the schools in our particular sector that there are children having to be outdoors in a portable classroom. You realize that Beale has 8 portable classrooms? They built College Gardens just a few years ago, and it's already got 2, with I think another 2 on the way. I mean, we have reached a point where the planning, as far as the Montgomery County Public Schools is concerned, and what the city can handle are not meshing. Mr. Gajewski refers to the issues we had with regard to portables and whether or not the Montgomery County Public Schools had to follow our regulations. Well, I can tell you, I spent many a day in Annapolis testifying, cajoling, conference calls, you name it, trying to take that bill away. It took all kinds of work on the part of our former mayors, on people who are in Annapolis working for us, on the District 17, those delegates worked their butt off. We finally managed to get that bill withdrawn. Mr. Gajewski was nowhere around. Thank you.
Okay, it's now time for the final closing statements by each of the candidates. So this time, Mr. Gajewski will go first.
Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to again thank the League of Women Voters. Wonderful event, terrific questions. Mayor Marcucci and I have 2 very distinct visions for our city, so the choice here should be clear for the voters. My vision includes making data-driven decisions about our budget, which is why I supported our cost allocation protocol that lets us choose different plans, know the real costs of what it is that we are doing. Mayor Mercutio opposed that. She didn't prevail, so we have moved forward with that. I also support a vision where we invest in infrastructure and finance our infrastructure. And here I'm speaking about our water pipe replacement program and our police headquarters. I supported those, and the majority on the council did, which is why they're moving forward. Mayor Mercutio voted against financing those 2 projects. Had she prevailed, they would not be going forward. And finally, my vision includes a vibrant town center supported by appropriate economic development and sometimes with an appropriate partnership with Montgomery County. And a perfect example of that is the Choice Hotels headquarters moving to town center. And on that deal, I supported that deal. Mayor Marcuccio was the only one on the council who opposed that deal. It's a fantastic deal for the city. It will have 500 employees supporting our economy in Town Square. So that's my vision for the city. Mayor Marcuccio has a different vision. The differences are pronounced. I hope that you share my vision, and if you do, I ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Mercutio?
Once again, I have to say some of the facts are just a little askew here, but that's all right. There are fact sheets all over the place that can tell you what really happened. Number one, about Mr. Ullery. Number two, about Choice Hotels. Number three, about the bond issues. I'm not going to stand here and waste your energies on those. I'm telling you that if I voted against something, there was a darn good reason. I am not negligent in any way. I'm fiscally conservative, you can be sure. You know, the city has $148 million worth of debt. Do you know that we are spending $5.7 million every year servicing those debts? Do you know the city of Gaithersburg has practically zero debt? You know the city of Bowie just built a new city hall, had to borrow a little, but not very much. They had saved to do it all. When I first heard about our police department, it was going to be $5 million. Do you know that it's going to be over $10 million when it's finished? I just want you to realize all is not just in the rhetoric you've heard. Let me say that I think the future of this city is incredibly important. We are at a crossroads, and we need to think very carefully about which way we want to go. Deeper in debt, higher density, or a city we still love and care to maintain. You know, we're going to have a new mayor and council. We're going to have a new city manager. We're going to have a new city clerk. You're going to need somebody at the tiller that has some degree of steadiness and that you can trust to tell you the truth at all times. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. In closing, I would like to thank the two mayoral candidates, Phyllis Marcuccio and Peter Gajewski. At the polls, you will be voting for one candidate for a 2-year term. And of course, the League of Women Voters urges all of you to get out and vote for whatever candidate you wish, but don't forget to vote. And thank you so much for coming. We'll take a few-minute break so we can change to the council candidates, and then we will start over again. And thank you again. Good job. Are we all set? Oh, boy. We all ready? Okay. Welcome back to the Rockville Candidate Forum. We are now ready to have the forum for the Councilmatic candidates. We have 8 candidates. Each candidate will get 2-minute opening speech. The questions will be answered in 1-minute answers, and we will rotate who starts the questioning, and there'll be a closing 1-minute statement. The Councilmatic, what people have drawn numbers out of a hat, and that's how we know the candidates, what order they are in. So it's not alphabetical. We kind of changed it a little bit. So I will introduce them as they get up to speak. So we will be ready for their opening statements. Again, Diane Habino will be the timekeeper, so keep an eye on her. She's good. Okay, the first, number 1 that was picked was Dion Trahan. You can have your opening statement of 2 minutes, and you may stand. Is fine.
Oh, is it okay if I sit as well?
You
or?
may do either one.
Great. My name's Dion Trahan. I'm a veteran. I'm currently on the Planning Commission. I'm 31. I'm a HOA secretary of my community at Legacy at Lincoln Park. I'm an active Lincoln Park Civic Association member. I'm on the Citizen Implementation Committee. I also have a JD and a bachelor's in civil law from Louisiana State University. I have an LLM, which is a master's in law from American University in laws and government with the concentration in constitutional law and civil rights. My past experience, I worked in the Majority Whip's office when the Democrats were in power. Before that, when the Democrats were in minority, I worked in the Democratic caucus, and then I was on the Veteran Affairs Committee, on the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee as counsel and professional staff member. So if you want to talk about finding waste and abuse, you're looking at it. Also, I heard recently that 60% of Rockville's population have lived here 10 years or less. Juxtapose that with seniors in Rockville are the fastest growing segment of the population. So what does this mean? Simply, it's vision. We have a tendency to talk urgently about today's problems, but I'm going to be here in 20 years. And what happens and how we determine our issues on our bond rating, what we do with our bonds, how we invest smartly in green energy, our fleet services being reduced or changing to compressed natural gas versus being subjugated to the whims of the market. Those are important. This past year, 10,994 people participated in the rec programs, the Latino boys soccer programs. 65 parks were composed of 65 parks composed of 1,034 acres in fiscal year 2010 were built upon. I believe that's important. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Our next candidate is John Hall.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I especially want to thank our host, the League of Women Voters, for the wonderful job that they've done so far and the wonderful job I know that they'll do the rest of the evening. Especially want to thank all of you for taking your time to come out and do what really exemplifies what's great about Rockville, and that's participate in the political process, to throw us the hard questions, to listen to our answers, to engage us in discussion. And that's really what it's all about. My name is John Hall, and I am a candidate for the Rockville City Council. Several years ago, it was my honor to serve as your council member, and during that time, I co-authored the city's first Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, the APFO. I authored landmark legislation to protect the lives and property of Rockville's residents. I supported limits on the expansion of institutional uses in neighborhoods, and I helped to realize the vision of our town center. For all of us, I think, all of us here and all of us in the city, this campaign focuses on Rockville's vision for the future. What is the vision that we will have for the next 10 years, the next 20 years, and beyond? What do we hope our community will look and feel like in the coming years? Are we committed to responsibly managing growth in Rockville? Are we committed to sound budget practices? What will be our budget priorities and our service and amenity priorities for the city? Those are the important questions that I see. And also, and perhaps most importantly in the current climate, whether we will have the kind of civil and responsive government that we all deserve. You'll hear more about my positions in the coming hour, but you deserve to know now that I'm committed to preserving the APFO, achieving a sensible budget that respects our values and sense of fiscal responsibility, and committed to better governance for our city that we all enjoy. I look for your vote on November 8th, and I look forward to your questions tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Our third candidate is Richard Godfrey.
Hello, my name is Richard Godfrey. I'm running to safeguard our community assets, our schools, parks, and public services. As a citizen activist, I serve as the Twinbrook Citizens Association treasurer. I have provided pro bono tax services for seniors and headed the home-based business action team that produced changes in our zoning code to help small businesses. I'm a certified public accountant, small business owner, and professor of accounting with service as a controller and director of finance. I'm recently married to the lovely Stacy Freeman Godfrey, back of the room. Every citizen election brings unique challenges and tests our abilities to preserve our character and our vibrant neighborhoods. The challenges we are facing include preserving our adequate public facilities ordinance to regulate development in Rockville. Without a strong, adequate public facilities ordinance, we face runaway high-density development that could result in traffic congestion, overburdened public services, and overcrowded schools. We need to recognize that we cannot solve school overcrowding with unlimited portable classrooms at our schools. We need to commit to preserving and improving Rockville's parks and green spaces for our residents. Taxes should be used to fund services to residents and not subsidize development. Remember, it's your money that came from your pocket as taxes and fees. It is critical that the council provide responsible fiscal management. And finally, I am committed to promoting open and responsive government that encourages and values citizen input. Let's work together to make Rockville a place where the citizens are respected and their needs are addressed first. I'll be honored by your vote on November 8th.
Thank you. Okay, fourth candidate is Les Francis.
Thank you. The message I'm bringing here today is that Rockville is sliding towards mediocrity, and it has been for some time. And part of the reason, it's the old tools and the old thinking that have been entrenched in Rockville for so long. I think I'm the only person who's bringing new thinking to the table. I'm starting off with how we generate revenue to run the city government. I am proposing the complete elimination of the residential real property tax, off the books completely. I am proposing a piggyback income tax, the same way the county government piggybacks on the Maryland state tax return. Using real estate as the basis for generating revenue is an old, archaic concept. Let me give you an example. I've got a widow friend, she's late 70s, early 80s, been living in her house for almost 50 years. She pays $6,000 a year in real estate taxes. Her sole source of income is $15,000 in Social Security payments. Her effective tax rate is 40%. Her next door neighbors in a very similar house, there are 3 wage earners there are 2 children. Let's say, for example, those 3 wage earners generate $300,000 in income. If they do that, their effective tax rate is 2% compared to her 40%. Let's knock that down to $100,000 for these 3 wage earners, okay? Which is $33,000 a year. Effectively, their tax rate is 6%, where this widow lady is paying 40% of her household income in real estate taxes. That's unfair, that's inequitable, and it's regressive. And if I'm elected, I will work to change the way we generate revenue, expand the tax base, start taxing people who are rentals because they're getting away scot-free now. They're not paying 1 penny towards running the city government. Anybody in a rental situation, apartment, condo, pays nothing effectively towards running the city government. That's also unfair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next candidate is Virginia Onley.
Hi, my name is Virginia Onley, and I've lived in Rockville for 18 years. When I moved here, I was on my way to another area of well, not the state. Actually, I was on my way to D.C. But when I started volunteering, I really fell in love with Rockville and their citizen participation form of government. I'm known as a unifier. When Mayor Krasnow asked me to join the Human Rights Commission, I stepped up to the plate, joined that commission because there were some strange things going on with personalities. Every board and commission that I've served on, and I've served on boards and commissions longer than any council candidate here. So I have the reputation for being a unifier. When Mayor Kroll asked me to join the Compensation Commission, I was one of the original members, and I stepped up to the plate. I believe that you need a council candidate who's going to roll up their sleeves and fight to bring the city together, to foster really good relationships with Montgomery County Public Schools. I support the APFO. It's unfortunate that we're in the situation that we're in with our children and the schools, but I believe with the right council candidate and the right elected official, we can roll up our sleeves and have a better relationship with Montgomery County and our other stakeholders. Oh my goodness. I also am on the Americana Homeowners Board, and I've overseen a $3.1 million project, which was stormwater management, garage renovation. And I've also worked 35 years for IBM, where I learned budgets and how to make good, sound decisions for the individuals that I was representing. Thank you.
Okay.
Time goes too fast.
All right, Mark Pachela.
Yes, my name is Mark Pershela. I, like Council Member Bridget Newton, am a first-term council member running for re-election. My family and I moved to Rockville in 1996 when my oldest daughter was in kindergarten and my youngest is just turning 2, and now the youngest is a senior at Richard Montgomery. I spent 10 years in the College Garden Civic Association, several as a block captain, 2 as a secretary, and 4 as a president of the College Garden Civic Association. I have a master's degree in mathematical statistics, which means I spent 2 years in grad school solving high-level mathematical theorems, never saw a number. I have had a successful career in federal government and now in private sector. I have my own business since January 2010. In January 2011, I was named to a National Academy of Sciences expert panel on the redesign of the Consumer Expenditure Survey, which feeds into the Cost of Living Index. I think the biggest issue for Rockville by far, without question, is how we cope with the changing environment around us. The regional economy will change greatly. We know the federal government is massively in debt. The state government has their issues in solving their budget problems. We will have to adapt how Rockville does business. I'm a unifier in College Gardens. We had a stormwater management issue where we brought the neighborhood together after 10 years to have not only a stormwater management facility brought into the neighborhood, but a wonderful award-winning park that has now won 3 awards. And that was all because when I was Civic Association president, I found a way to bring a lot of different people together, people who are butting heads, and we got together, made a plan, the city financed it, and we now have our park and pond. Thank you.
Okay, Bridget Newton.
Good evening, and thank you to the League for hosting tonight's forum, and congratulations on 91 years. My name is Bridget Newton, and I've lived in Rockville for 30 years. I currently have the honor of serving on your council, and I'd like to continue that. Along with the weekly routine of day and late night meetings, since being on the council, I've recommended a youth commission, a budget commission. I've chaired the communications task force, resulting in changes to the development review process, helping our neighborhoods which were confronted with oversized proposals. I'm an active member in the Maryland Municipal League, serving on the legislative committee. I've forged relationships with our county council, our state legislatures, and the Board of Education. With our mayor, I reopened the dialogue with Federal Realty, and by spring we will have a grocery in our town center. I hung in there, protecting the last large piece of city-owned green space, and we finally got a lease for Redgate, eliminating the financial risk to the city and maintaining Rockville's amenity. I proposed, and we passed, legislation that designated Glenview and its grounds historic. Going forward, I'd like to form a permanent finance and budget commission. For example, did you know we have an underfunded pension liabilities of over $33 million and $140 million worth of debt? Some on this council voted to approve new fee structures, putting even more pressure on our citizens to pay for needed infrastructure. I would like to investigate ways to share those costs. I would like to create a forum to bring up all of the neighborhood associations together so that City Hall is more in step with neighborhood issues. The next mayor and council will have the responsibility of hiring a new city clerk and a city manager. I want to protect our APFO to give us the tool to manage growth so that our infrastructure can accommodate development. All of these challenges can become opportunities if the individuals on the council work collaboratively, listen respectfully to their colleagues and the citizens that they represent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Tom Moore.
Thank you. My name is Tom Moore. I'm running for City Council because Rockville's next mayor and council have some terrific opportunities to guide the future of this city, and I want to be a part of that. First thing they're going to have to do is hire a new city manager. This position is absolutely key to shaping the city's future. I want somebody who's experienced, somebody who loves the city, and someone who can carry out the wishes of the mayor and council. But most importantly, I want somebody who can push back. The city manager, whoever that person is the professional in the room. We set the broad policy, but the city manager is the one who really has to know the details and tell us when we're wrong. I want somebody who will respect our decision when we make a final decision, but along the way, push back every time we need it. This next mayor and council also has the opportunity to get the next phase of town center moving. I was the leader of the citizen effort to get the library built, which is the heart of the first phase of town center, and get that built on time. I'm very excited about this opportunity to write the next chapter of Rockville's future. Something you should know about me is that I have 6 kids, all of them in public schools in Rockville. No one has more at stake in our school's conditions than I do. I want to find solutions to our school overcrowding that actually work. I've lived in Rockville for 14 years. I grew up in Montgomery County. I was top of my class at Georgetown Law. I've served in all corners of our city. I am chairman of the Compensation Commission. I am on the board of directors of Peerless Rockville, which helps protect Rockville's neighborhoods and our treasures. I served 2 terms on Rockville's Traffic and Transportation Commission. I saved lives in Rockville driving an ambulance for the Rockville Volunteer Fire Department. All these experiences, I think, give me a perspective that's not shared by anybody else up here. Thank you for coming out tonight. I look forward to your questions.
Okay, thank you all. All right, the first question will start with John Hall, and we have talked about affordable housing, but we've also heard that one of the key elements of the population are the senior citizens, and we were wondering if there is a need for additional housing for the seniors, and if so, how can this be done?
1 minute.
1 minute.
Okay, then I'll keep my seat so I don't waste
Okay.
time getting up and down. When I served on the council, every housing unit that I approved or that I voted to approve contained affordable housing as a requirement of law. That was true for Town Center. That was true for 30 Oaks. That was true for Twinbrook Commons. That is a key feature of the city's housing policy and something that I absolutely defend. With regard to seniors, there's a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I would like to ensure that regardless of whether we make housing changes, that we restore the homeowner's rebate that the current council abolished. I think that's something that's very helpful to people, particularly who are on fixed incomes. When I was walking around Twinbrook back a couple months ago, talking with folks who just received their tax bills, their taxes had gone up by $600 in 1 year. Now, $500 of that was from county taxes, but that $100 addition came directly as a result of the city's abolition of the homeowner's rebate.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other candidates that would like to respond to this? Okay.
I will.
Okay. Mr. Godfrey?
Let's just clarify what Mr. Hall said. The reason why our tax went up was two reasons. One was because the Montgomery County tax went up, but yes, the $100 property tax credit. But the real reason why our taxes went up is because we lost the homestead property tax credit. In 08, 09, 010, the value of our houses went up, so our taxes, so we had a credit limited to 10%. Now that the value of our houses are going down, now a lot of us see on our real estate property tax bills zero for the homestead property tax credit, and that's why you see that big hit. As far as affordable housing for seniors, we want to make sure that we increase our percentage for affordable housing from 12% to 15 to 20% in new development. And the second thing is we want to work on our seniors being able to live in their homes. I guess I'm out of time.
Okay. Ms. Only had her hand up, and then we'll go to Mr. Francis.
Actually, I do support, senior housing. I'm retired. I'm on fixed income. So at some point, I'm going to need some housing other than running up 3 flights of steps where I live at the Americana Center. But what I would like to see, I'd like to see us set up an ongoing commission or a task force that actually assesses each senior person and helps them stay in their own home. I made a joke about I'm going to stay there until I'm too old to run up and down the steps. But if I had certain services, I would be able to stay there until they carried me out on a stretcher. But the key thing is for us to be involved, to actually assess our seniors and try to make them comfortable. Because as you get older, you've worked, you've put into the community, Rockville, and I think we need to give back.
Okay. Mr. Francis?
I've actually worked in the reverse mortgage industry. One of the issues there is that by taking out a reverse mortgage, you never have to make a mortgage payment again the rest of your life. Most seniors want to stay in their homes. They want to live there till the end of their life. The most difficult part of staying in your own home, again, is the property tax. By eliminating the property tax in the city of Rockville, we will take that burden off the seniors and they can stay in their home for the rest of their life. It only makes sense.
Okay. Any?
Yes,
Mr. Bertelli?
For Shayla, yes.
For Shayla.
Yes, we need housing, not just for seniors, but we need housing for a lot of people like young professionals as well, people who cannot afford those single-family prices. This is going to have to come about as redevelopment, for example, of Rockville Pike and some other areas. Seniors may want to stay in their own home. Some of them don't. Some want to stay in Rockville, but move to more accessible, more lower price housing. As far as the property tax, let me just tell you that every time we try to cut a program or a service, we get stormed at Citizens Forum. It's very hard to do that. Rockvillians are not used to having services and programs cut. Of the $100 tax credit that you lost, about 40% of that was due to the red gate. Finally, we forced the lease. We're going to have Red Gate Golf without taxpayer risk, without taxpayer cost. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bridget?
Thank you. I absolutely support affordable housing, and to that end, I tried to help broker a deal for Bell's Grant too. I think we need in this city to understand that there is a lot of affordable housing, and we need to make sure that our neighborhoods can handle the necessary need for more in ways that are manageable. We are now getting a Victory Housing, which will be a senior housing project, Brightwood Housing out on Darnestown Road. And one of my concerns about those projects is their ability to get to services, their ability to get into town, their ability to go to the grocery. So we need to make sure that our community adapts to all types of housing, encouraging seniors to live in place, to age in place, to be able to stay in their homes. And to that end, I've supported the homeowners tax credit reduction that we can do through the state. The other thing you need to know is, since I was elected, I have donated my stipend to Rockville Housing Enterprises, on which I serve as a liaison, because I do believe that good affordable housing comes from all.
Thank you. All right. Our next question, and we'll start with Mr. Gottfried, is over the past decade, various pieces of land have been annexed to Rockville and is from Montgomery County. Is this something that you see is going to continue in the future? Are you in favor of it? What are the pros and cons of annexation?
I think annexation, as we saw from last night's council meeting, a 3-2 vote with the three men voting for the annexation of Silverwood in the King Farm neighborhood, that Montgomery County didn't want to have this property, so they went master plan shopping and found the city of Rockville with open arms to annex in the property. And one of our big pieces of legislation we've been talking about is the APFO, which we asked the mayors, was basically thrown out by having this property annexed in. We took no account for school capacity, we took no account for traffic capacity, and it was put next to a dump. And there's some other problems with living next to a dump. And so I think that we have to make sure that that doesn't set a precedent for other properties that want to come in here. Since I have 15 seconds, I just want to clarify some important points. About someone mentioned about cutting programs. Last fiscal year in 11, our revenues exceeded our expenses by $5.7 million.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Francis?
I'd like to go on record as being opposed to that annexation vote as well, for a lot of reasons. One of them is that the 417 rental units will not pay one nickel towards running the city government, not one nickel. All 417 families living there will be free riders at your expense if you're a homeowner. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Trahan, did you have a... Okay.
And thanks for that pronunciation, by the way. You nailed it.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the issue. I think for the Silverwood property, managing our fears and our stereotypes is the most important thing, I think, by leading by example and really being the crown jewel of the county. Admittedly, it's very easy to say, oh, it's by a dump. How dare they? I mean, the moral argument, you have the high ground. But in reality, King Farm is 300 or 600 feet across the street. If you're a fan of smart growth, then this is right in your bailiwick. It's near the metro, it's convenient, it's walking, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the bottom line. We shouldn't fear the future in density and growth. I think managing it smartly. Now, is Silverwood the right answer? I don't know. But I'm willing to take into consideration and listen. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moore, and then we'll...
The question was generally about annexations from Montgomery County, and I think annexations have been a very important part in the growth and the health of this city. We annexed the land for King Farm. We annexed the land for Falls Grove. Those are two of our largest, most vibrant, most valuable neighborhoods in the entire city. Annexations have been very, very good for Rockville. I think that's a trend that's going to slow down because we've bumped up against Gaithersburg. We'll bump up against Bethesda at some point. If we had annexed a little bit more down Rockville Pike, we'd probably have better control over where Walmart would like to build. That's just outside our borders. Those are the kind of things that annexation actually does for us. When we annex land, it allows us to have control over how that land is developed. Annexation has been very good. I want to take 1 minute to talk about whether renters are freeloaders. Renters pay rent to a property owner, and that property owner pays lots and lots of property tax for the extremely large and valuable apartment building that property owner owns. There's absolutely no way that renters are freeloaders.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hall, and then Mr. Purcell.
The obvious appeal of annexations is that everybody thinks that it brings in new and needed revenue to the city. What folks don't consider is the impact of them, or the fact that the city is obliged to provide the infrastructure and services that may not be compatible with large-scale development on annexed properties. So annexation can be something that is appropriate, but it has to be something that is consistent with the city's laws and principles, including the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, and which complements our community and doesn't overburden our infrastructure and our schools. I think that's the balance that has to be made, particularly in the context of our current situation, where there isn't a whole lot of available land to annex into the city, and we are subject to and party to agreements with the county and the surrounding jurisdictions that bind our boundaries, so that we have to make sure that we are making smart choices there.
Okay. Mr. Prashela?
Yes, I voted for the Silverwood annexation. I'm proud of it. As an environmentalist, I will always put high-density apartments right next to the metro. The county actually at one point had slated that as residential, and they just swapped some other location for that. The adequate public facility, we don't have to do anything extra to provide further sewer, further water, further traffic, or anything like that. We carved out a very minor specific exception on the schools, which are all in Gaithersburg. That does not affect the rest of Rockville. But that's going in next to Metro. Should bus rapid transit ever occur on 355, it'll be next to that. Should the CCT ever be built, it'll be next to that. You're putting 417 units, environmentally tight units, right next to potentially three major modes of mass transit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to? Okay, our next question will start with Mr. Francis. And what are your priorities for funding in this time of fiscal austerity?
Well, there's a lot of fat, waste, and abuse in the budget at the present time. It's possible to substantially reduce the budget as it exists. I've done a substantial amount of budget comparison between other municipal governments in the area. For example, the city of Frederick, which is about 10% larger population, about 50% more land mass, has as many programs and many better programs than the city of Rockville, runs their government at 75% of the costs of running the city government here in Rockville. And some specific examples. The human resource function here in the city of Rockville has 10 full-time equivalent employees. SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, says an organization with 600 to 650 employees should operate with about 5 full-time equivalents. That's exactly how Frederick runs their HR department, with 5 people as compared to 10. That is true throughout the entire expense structure of the city government.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Godfrey?
Yeah. The city of Rockville is in great financial shape. Fiscal year 2011, our revenues exceeded our expenses by $5.7 million, where we can fund CIP projects, still maintain our 15% reserve. Our enterprise funds, water, sewer, speed camera, our water fund, forecasted in the next 5 years, we have today $7.7 million in our funds in the bank. And in 5 years, the city forecasts that we're going to end up with $17 million. So we're going to have an extra $10 million in the next 5 years. We're in great shape. I mean, we have to ask why we're going to keep getting 25% increases in our water rates. Why we keep having 13% increases in our sewer rates. And why our stormwater management fee goes from $40 to $62. The stormwater management fund goes from $2 million to $3.3 million. Our water fund's going to have $4.2 million in it, and our sewer's going to have $5 million.
Okay, Mr. Hall, and then Mr. Moore.
When I first kicked off my campaign back in June, I said that we are experiencing some of the most intense fiscal pressures that many of us can recall, certainly in my lifetime in the past 20 years in Rockville. So I don't think that any credible candidate could sit up here and tell you that we're going to be able to make huge increases in expenditures or huge budget cuts or things like that. But at the same time, or huge tax cuts. But at the same time, Rockville has some excellent city services and some wonderful amenities. These are the things that make Rockville the wonderful place that it is for all of us and the place that we love. And so focusing on retaining those key amenities and city services is something that I'm committed to doing. So I think if you're asking me what am I going to look at in the funding context, it isn't going to be adding new burdens on the budget as much as it is looking at things like over $1.1 million in non-police overtime that we ought to take a look at potentially reducing. So it's things like that I intend to focus on.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, and then Mr.
Back in the early 90s, the EPA told municipalities that they should start saving their pennies because basically everybody built their water and sewer systems out of the same materials, and they were all going to fail at just about the same time, and it was going to cost millions of dollars. Nobody did. Rockville didn't save its pennies. Nobody saved their pennies. The bill has come due. We have tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure repair that we need to be paying for. That's the reason that our rates have been going up at water and sewer, 15% a year, and it's going to keep going. $7.7 million in the water fund is not that much money. We had a pair of water outages last July that cost $5 million to fix. A water tower costs something like $14 million to replace. We have lots and lots of things due. We absolutely have to make funding our infrastructure a priority, and having balances in those funds is not money. That's not a piggy bank we can raid. Those are things that are about to fail that we need to pay for.
Okay, Ms. Newton, and then Mr. Trahan.
Thank you. Priorities for funding from me would be to protect our current level of services, to maintain our infrastructure, and to continue to fund our police to the optimum level. I would also want to put money towards maintaining the amenities and infrastructure that we have in our Parks and Rec program to the point that we don't allow them to disintegrate and then we have real issues. We're a green city, but we still provide $450 a month in a car allowance to our senior executives. For some reason, I don't think that fits right now. I think we need to be giving the 51 cents per mile for miles driven on city business to everybody but our Director of Public Works and our Chief of Police. Those people need a car at their disposal 24/7. Everybody else, we can pay them per miles driven. There are a lot of other things I think we could do. We give our senior staff 10% on top of their salary at a time when we're cutting our other staff in their, or giving at most a 1% increase. So I think there are things we can do. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Trahan.
Well, for starters, I do not support a pay raise for mayor and council. Secondly, Ready, we spend $541,300,000 whenever there's a parallel with the Chamber of Commerce. I said earlier, oil, fleet services, $1.5 million over that. Oil and gas alone, $918,670, and it's based on the market. Whenever we can switch to environmental-friendly, smarter fuel sources. Citizen survey. This is an example. You spend $75,000 to figure out what the citizens, what you want, what I want. It comes out, and then you vote completely different. That's not smart use of, I think, our money. HR. We have, like Les said, bloated HR, but we spend $215,700 on outside trainers. HR is supposed to train the leadership and the workforce. So things like that, we can really start cutting back.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Priscilla?
Just briefly, I want to say that the big elephant in the room with peanut butter breath is the retirement fund. We were almost fully funded on retirement until the 2008 collapse. Every year we're contributing another $700,000 additional to what we contributed the previous year. This is going to continue. We know that we are expecting too much return at 7.75%. We've asked the actuary and the investment advisors to give us a better expected rate of return. When they do, it'll be lower. It's really going to be a very difficult thing to fund that retirement. It's an obligation. We can't get out of it. And so this is one of the biggest pressures. For that reason, I can't promise that we will have that $100 tax credit back because I know this is just something that's waiting to go off. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Onley?
You know, I don't know that there's an exact formula for controlling your budget. When you run a business and you look at your attrition rate, that's one of the ways that you're able to cut back. You also need to look at businesses who are paying a lower rate than maybe they should. I know Rockville has at least one business that pays a lower tax rate, and it won't change until it switches ownership. And there are a lot of things that as an elected official, I'll be able to take a look at and work with city staff to get the budget under control. I hear we've got plenty of money, we don't have plenty of money. But one thing I know for sure, that you need an elected official that handles the city budget the way they handle their personal budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, along those lines, we have a question. The residents of Rockville pay for full police force services from the county in their county taxes. This service is duplicated by the city with a full city police force paid from city taxes. How do you feel about this duplication of service? And Ms. Only, you're on again.
Oh, I'm on again? Okay. Well, since my son is a Montgomery County police officer, I'm gladly paying his salary. And because I live in the city limits, I'm glad to have the Rockville Police, because I've called them a number of times, and it's nice to have police who respond right away. So I can't say it's wasted money. And I think police, first responders, those are jobs that our money should go for. And even though it may hurt the budget a little bit, your personal budget, I think it's worth every penny.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Newton?
I agree with Virginia very much on this one. Our police and the county police are essential services, and the duplication of services only serves to enhance Rockville. We have a wonderful police force, and the county is stretched very, very thin. If we were to not have a police force in Rockville, the county police would be much farther away from our need for service calls. And I just think that the community policing that our chief has put in place and the way he handles things has really been a benefit to the neighborhoods in Rockville and to the citizens. So I very much support having dual services.
Okay, Mr. Dion, and then, I'm sorry, Mr. Strahan.
Appreciate it. When I did a ride-along with the chief of police, 3 hours in the car with the chief, you learn quite a bit. And first of all, I think it's a mischaracterization to say it's a duplicate service. For example, in our neighborhood, we had a bullying issue. We told the chief of police. He helped organize an anti-bullying campaign in our town, our community center, where parents were involved, school officials, and it was wonderful. I'm not saying the county can't do it, but we have a police force that just does more than arrest drunkards and bullies and whatnot. I mean, they actually are involved in our community. And I would support not only the police force, but an increase. You look at neighborhoods like Twin Brook. You know, a lot of it is perhaps Latino crime. That doesn't mean we should look away. I mean, it's still crime. And what people don't understand is if we appropriate $500,000, it doesn't mean we have cops tomorrow. It takes a long process, somewhere in the course of 14 months, assuming the candidate doesn't wash out in the police force. So if we want a stronger police force, we need to start thinking about it now and paying for it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
I strongly support the Rockville Police Force. One of the things that spending that extra money gives us is incredible response times. If you need a police officer at your house in the city of Rockville, you will get one very, very quickly. I've also been to community meetings, neighborhood meetings, where there's almost always a police representative there, and they'll give the crime report, everything that's happened in that neighborhood in the last month or two. And the command of detail that our police officers have of what's going on in our neighborhoods, street by street by street, is amazing. Our police chief, Terry Treshik, is a treasure. He does an amazing job. If any citizen has a question, he sends him an email, they get a response right back from him. I see responses from him on neighborhood listservs. The responsiveness that we're hoping to get out of a police force here in Rockville, we're absolutely getting our money's worth.
Okay, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. As a volunteer firefighter and emergency medical service provider in the county for over 22 years, this is an easy one for me. What you've heard people say is altogether correct, but what nobody has said is that there is not, in fact, a duplication of service. So that's a misnomer. Everything that everybody said up here supports that principle. And it's true because Rockville City Police responds to the vast majority of all calls for service. The fact that we have them means that, in fact, all calls for service do get answered, which might not be the case if we were relying entirely upon the county. Additionally, you heard Councilmember Newton and others talk about the other types of services, community policing efforts, and things like that, that, again, add to the character and the attractiveness of our city and our communities. This is something that makes Rockville special, and it's something that I think all of us should continue to support.
Mr. Burchella?
Just to point out, we don't entirely duplicate the county for murder investigations, for laboratory services, some very highly specialized things. The county takes over. The city police, county police have an excellent relationship. When the new police station is here, I will seriously consider adding some new officers. We've grown something like 17,000 people in 10 years. We have a lot more area. The fact that we have a police station is due to the fact that myself, Gajewski, and Britton voted to fund it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody? Okay. Mr. Godfrey?
In my community, in the community where I live in Twinbrook, I'm a member of the TCA, as I said, as a treasurer, and we have a great relationship. We have Officer Manley, who actually personally, knows all the neighborhood kids in the community center, Twinbrook Community Center, and just so you know, Dion, that there's crime all over the city, not just in Twinbrook. But the response, sir. Just want to clarify that. Yes. Thank you. So they do a wonderful job, and obviously we're going to give them the full support that they need to do their job. And Chief Treshik, you can talk to him, as a person, and not just like if you looked at a Montgomery County police officer with the hat and the glasses and the uniform, just an image. There are actually people behind the uniform that they wear.
Okay, thank you. And it's nice to have everybody agree. You can be very proud of your police department, it sounds like. Okay. As far as traffic goes, we're going to be a little specific here and deal with Rockville Pike. What do you see as the future of Rockville Pike? And right now, the plans with White Flint don't quite coordinate with the Rockville city plans. So what do you see as the future of Rockville Pike? And we'll start with Mr. Burchella.
Thank you. Well, we do have Planning Commission given great detailed look at it. The thing is, we need to have the bus rapid transit. That needs to be part of it. You have to realize that the people who funded the traffic study to the south of us was not the county, but the developers. So we have this mismatch of should the bus rapid transit be in the middle or should it be on the side. Personally, I believe it should be on the side because I can see people running across 3 lanes of car traffic to catch their bus. And I think you're going to have some accidents that way. But the county and Rockville will eventually come together on it. I don't see it as a big deal at the moment. We have a lot of discussion to go, and it's going to take a while, but we'll get there. Thank you.
Mr. Trahan?
You would think, do we take the straight path or the crooked path would be a simple solution. It's sort of indicative of, I think, how the current government operates with our neighbors. The county has said, our neighbors have said, going down the middle, everyone's on board but you. It's counterintuitive, but certain intersections, getting closer to failing is actually a good thing in traffic. I know. I didn't understand either the first time I heard it. And the other fact of the matter is that with Science City to the north and White Flint, traffic is going to get worse. Now, I'm a strong advocate of keeping seniors in their vehicles. Every time you hear about smart growth or transportation, the first thing people say is, let's get everybody out of their cars. Hey, that's great for me. But my 68-year-old neighbor, that's not so great for her. Traffic is going to get worse. And I'd be pulling your leg if I told you it's not. And what can I do about it? On the council, absolutely nothing.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishes to tackle this? Okay, Ms. Newton.
I want to say a couple things about the Rockville Pike plan. When it was envisioned and there was community input, I think there was a lot of dreaming going on and a lot of good energy put forward to looking at Rockville's economic engine, which is Rockville Pike. I think now it's time for the Planning Commission to take it back and really give some very considered thought to some differences that we have, one with the county where the BRT goes, one with the fact that we don't have a current plan that goes from Rockville's north end to its south end, and what we're going to do with the form code that they're suggesting for how the building will be developed. This plan has already cost us $750,000, which is, in my opinion, a lot of money. And I think we need to make sure that everybody who wants to be a part of the conversation has a chance, and hopefully the Planning Commission will be our representatives on that before it goes to the council.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
We've spent a fair amount of money on the Rockville Pike plan, but that is absolutely one of the key jobs of a government. We will get the future that we plan for. If the city of Rockville doesn't plan for what Rockville Pike is going to look like over the next 50 years, no one's going to do it.
Is there anybody else? Okay, Mr. Hall?
Well, sure. Actually, given Rockville Pike's importance, I hope that everybody up here will take a shot at this one, because I think the vision that I would like to see is that Rockville Pike remain a regional retail focus for the city. It is one of the city's economic engines. I think the Rockville Pike plan has a few things that are of interest to me, but it has many more things that are of great concern to me with regard to density and heights and floor to area ratios and things like that. Those are the kinds of things that really, really need to be re-examined. The impact of places like Walmart, first of all, Walmart wouldn't even be allowed in the city. But even before I served on the council several years ago, the city had passed a big box ban that would have kept a store like that out. I think we've got an important advocacy role to take with the county on something like Walmart, and we've got to really put some energy into ensuring that these kinds of impacts outside our city don't overburden us.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else? Okay. Mr. Godfrey?
Sure. Continuing along Mr. Hall's thoughts. The Rockville Pike plan, we need, intelligent and realistic plans. We have a traffic commission actually meeting next door on the same night, and we need to have a vision for how we get north to south, east to west, not just on Rockville Pike, but the whole city of Rockville. And that's the vision that we really need to look at. There was at the Planning Commission, we had actually five representatives from the development community, and they said that, don't kill the golden goose, which is retail, on Rockville Pike, that the current plan just does not work, building mixed use next to mixed use next to mixed use, and putting up trees, you can't see the retail, and just a whole plethora of, it's going to take 2 years to build, and where are those stores going to go, and we talk about Walmart coming, and we're going to kill a lot of our small businesses and restaurants by having Walmart come in, and that's going to throw off a whole nother wrench where we have X number of cars coming on Rockville Pike. So no public-private partnership, and that's
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? All right. The next question, you've spoken about overcrowding in schools, and Montgomery College is their main campus is right sitting in Rockville. And one of the questions is, what would you do to improve relationships with MCPS and Montgomery College? And if you think relationships are fine, how would you basically continue it? And we'll start with Ms. Newton this time.
As everybody knows, there's a new head of MCPS, and I look forward to meeting with him. He's apparently a very wonderful person, and I think we will have a good relationship with MCPS going forward. Laura Berthume is our local representative on the board, and she and I talk frequently about things. I think the APFO helped us get even the glimmer of a hope for elementary school number 5 in Hungerford. If we hadn't had the APFO, I don't think we would have ever gotten the push this far. We're also scheduled for discussions on a renovation at Twinbrook Elementary, which is very much needed, and additions at Julius West, Bell, and Ritchie Park. We have a relationship with MCPS that needs work. I think this council has done some things in that manner. We need to work on our relationship with Montgomery College and get the fence open. But I think they're all things that can be done if we put reasonable people out who will have conversations. So, thank you.
Mr. Bershaler?
Are we talking about MCPS or Montgomery College?
Both.
Both. Okay.
One or both.
All right. Well, there is one big sticking point with Montgomery College. This is the fence that went between my neighborhood, College Gardens, and the school itself. They generate some traffic, but overall, Montgomery College is such an asset to the city. Other than that fence issue, I think we have pretty good relationships with Montgomery College. Now, we have to work on the relationships to get that fence open. That is not an easy thing to do. And Dr. Pollard is new as the president of Montgomery College. I'm getting to know Dr. Judy Ackerman a lot better in my council member position. It's not an issue that's gone away. It's not an issue that we've stopped working on, but we need to have the respectful relationships because we're going to ask Montgomery College to step back a little bit from their present position, and we have to prepare the groundwork for that to happen. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Trahan?
Advocate. And having the fence open is great unless your house abuts the fence, and then you have the cigarette butts and the beer bottles and whatnot. So there's always two sides to every story. I'm not saying one's right over the other, but that's the issue. MCPS, I'm a firm believer that you can never over-communicate, and you never know more than you think you know. So I think the more we can come to the table, ask questions, and continuously learn, that's the direction I think we need to go in. Because when we sit back and become a thorn, whether it's on the county side, MCPS, the college, no one's going to want to come to our table. And how can you blame them? Because Walmart, a council member on the county, had 3 or 4 days' notice before the post even came out. Why didn't our government? That's just picking up the phone call or picking up the phone and making that phone call. That's no secret of that. So it's all about relationships.
Okay, Mr. Hall?
The thing I like about that question is that you said overcrowding in schools is a problem. How would you improve relationships with with MCPS and others? The question contained the answer. A lot of folks have said we've got overcrowding in schools and there's a problem with the adequate public facilities ordinance. It's not doing its job. Let's get rid of it. The answer to overcrowding in schools is exactly what Councilmember Newton and others have said, and that is it's working with the county. It's getting the school open in Hungerford. It's because of the APFO that there are these pressures that developers and others are putting on the school system in a cooperative context to get everybody together to enhance the infrastructure. If we didn't have that law, I think that we would be at a disadvantage. So my pledge to you and to everyone is that we will enhance those relationships because that's the only way that we will get out of these mess.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
I think it's an interesting theory that the APFO caused Montgomery County to change its mind on building us a new school. I think a clearer connection is between the work that the mayor and council has done in the last 2 years to build relationships with MCPS. The fact of the matter is that 85% of the growth in our schools population has come from existing housing, not from new development. I have 6 kids in the public schools. When I bought my house, I bought it from a family that didn't have any kids at all. If you want to look at where the problem in schools overcrowding is coming from, it's me, and it's you, and it's everybody in Rockville who moved to Rockville for great schools and great neighborhoods and came to Rockville and had more children. The APFO worries me as the solution to our schools overcrowding. It did not cause relationships with the county to become better. It is not solving our school overcrowding problem.
Okay, one more, Ms. Olney.
I've spoke out on this issue a couple of times, especially where it concerns Montgomery College. One of the things that elected officials need to do, and not just here in Rockville, but at the state and the national level, we need to make sure that we foster good relationships so that there are no surprises. If you have ongoing meetings and ongoing contact with your stakeholders, Montgomery College, Montgomery County Public Schools, the state of Maryland, you have honest and open relationships and you always know what's going on. For some reason, elected officials in modern times have got it in their heads that, okay, we're going to do our thing, you do your thing. It's a lot of work. It takes an elected official to roll up their sleeves, but I believe that's the key. It's communication and working together.
Okay, thank you. All right, it's time for our 1-minute summary because we're running out. And actually, I don't know how we worked out so perfectly, but we'll now start this way, and it is Mr. Moore's chance. So, Mr. Moore, would you like to start? And we will go down the line the opposite way this time.
I'd like to as soon as I find my closing.
Okay. Ms. Newton, do you want to start?
No, I got it. Thank
you
you.
got it. Okay.
I'm proud to call Rockville my home and to be building my family here and to be raising my 6 kids here. They give me a great perspective on the issues that matter most to Rockville's families. I've visited the homes of more than 2,000 voters in this election. And when I'm walking door to door, I try to remember to ask them, do you have any issues with the city right now? And most of the time people say, no, I love living in Rockville. It's a great town. That's something I'm trying hard to keep in mind. We do live in a great city. We have terrific services. We have beautiful parks. We have a city that's managed professionally and well. Our public officials are honest and dedicated to their jobs. But even though it's a terrific city, we can do better. We can do more. We can listen to the people better. We can explain ourselves better when we have to make difficult decisions. We can be more accountable. We can be more transparent. We can zealously protect our neighborhoods, but we can carefully plan for our future at the same time. I hope I've made a good case for myself tonight, and I appreciate your vote on November 8th. My name is Tom Moore. My website is moreforrockville.com. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Newton.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight and listening to the various opinions. I will always be a proponent for inclusion, transparency, and respect. I welcome a challenging conversation, not a challenging tone. I want Rockville to grow smart, as the mayor so aptly put it last week, and that will take your leaders working together to create and implement a vision. It's hard to complain about a Walmart when we voted to approve Silverwood, a project the county executive and the planning board opposed. We can't keep saying that our citizens aren't involved when we ignore their input and approve get into it. I don't believe development is bad, but there are some bad developments. We must protect our neighborhoods and continue advocating for school capacity so that we can grow commensurate with our ability to provide for that growth. With a rich history, it's hard to know if Rockville's best days are in the future, but I absolutely believe so. We need individuals who are willing to roll up their sleeves and put Rockville's best interests first, who can envision the potential ahead and are willing to unite our...
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pershela?
Oh,
Yeah.
Finish it?
Yeah.
Finish your sentence. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. And I practiced this at home. I want people who can envision the future ahead and will work together to make it happen. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Mr. Pershela?
Yes, I am very proud to have served you for 2 years. I always gave you my best. It was always 20, 30 or more hours per week on the council member job on top of a full-time job running my own business. I do it because I have a passion, not only for local government, I have a passion for making things work together. I have a passion for neighborhoods that stay viable, but at the same time, a passion for a city that stays viable into the future. I said it in my opening statement, the biggest issue for Rockville going forward, period, is coping with huge changes that are coming down the pike. For that reason, I and John Britton motivated the Rockville Summit. I suggested the study of economic competitiveness by Dr. Stephen Fuller. 240 people attended that on October 18th, and the whole thing was to bring the sectors of the city together to look at these problems before they hit, instead of being reactive and trying to cope afterwards.
Thank you. Ms. Only?
For the last 18 years, I've served on boards and commissions and task force here in the city of Rockville. And there's one thing, if you go to any of the boards, commission, or task force that I was a part of, they will tell you that I have sustained performance in always making the best decision for the majority of the people I was representing. It wasn't most of the time my decision, but it was for the good of the group that I was representing. As an Americana Center board member, I have to do that on an ongoing basis. We're wrapping up the $3.1 million stormwater management garage renovation, and I had to hold town meetings and explain to people why we were spending $3.1 million of their money. It will be the same thing here as a council member. I'll have to bring in all the citizens, which are our stakeholders, and explain to you why we're making decisions that we made. And there's one thing that you can count on. I won't back off. I'll explain to you why I made the choices I've made. Thank you.
Mr. Francis?
If Rockville's going to stop its slide toward mediocrity, it's going to have to start thinking differently. Rockville is should no longer be using the paradigm of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s. 60% of the people who live in Rockville now have lived here less than 10 years. It's a different set of requirements, it's a different set of needs, it's a different set of tools that have to come into play to make this work. Unless we've got some different thought up here, we're going to end up with the same old paradigm, with the same old failure, with the same old mediocrity. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Godfrey.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this candidate forum. In the current financial climate, every decision should be well thought out. The chief objective of a good city council is to safeguard our important community assets, our schools, services, and parks. Approving a realistic budget that serves the public good is an integral part of a councilman's responsibilities. With your vote, I will protect our schools from overcrowding, our police and public services from being overburdened by keeping our adequate public facilities ordinance strong. I will advocate for intelligent and realistic plans for future growth on Rockville Pike and other areas. I will preserve Rockville's parks and open space. And I will use my financial expertise to carefully analyze the budget and provide responsible fiscal management. I will promote open, responsive, and accountable government that encourages and values citizen input. I'll be honored by your vote on November 8th. You can visit my campaign website at www.gottfriedforcouncil.org.
Okay, thank you.
Vote Gottfried
Mr.
for
Hall.
good government.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hall.
I want to thank all of you again for coming out tonight, and special thanks to the League for hosting tonight's forum. You have some great candidates up here, and it's a pleasure to be up here surrounded by them. While we're facing some of the most intense economic pressures that we've seen in decades, as I said, this is not a time for despair. Rockville remains an economic engine for the region, and that's something that I'm going to work hard to preserve. And I'm also going to contain the growth of city expenditures and make sure that we sustain those key services and amenities that make Rockville the wonderful place that we all love. I'll work to restore the homeowner's tax rebate, and I'll hold the line on taxes without increasing anyone's tax rate, but simply by reducing business turnover and building up the commercial tax base. I think that we can achieve some sensible budget objectives for all of us. I'll ensure that we preserve the adequate public facilities ordinance, which gives us a critical tool to responsibly manage growth, and ensure that development complements our community and doesn't overwhelm our infrastructure and schools. I thank you all for coming out again tonight.
Okay. Mr. Trahan?
Remember where you were whenever you were watching Channel 11 and you had that anxiety, that spark of anger that you deserve something better. Remember when you came to Citizens Forum and you were snickered at or ignored. Or remember that survey you took and you believed in your heart that your voice was going to be heard, and it wasn't. Take that, hold on to it, and on November 8th, remember that. I want to ensure that every city crossing has those little chirp noises. The chirp, chirp, chirp. We're getting older. Visual impairments, that's serious. Everyone should be able to cross the streets. I want to make neighborhood resource staff responsible to be a point of contact for senior issues. City's not responsible, the county is, but there's a vacancy there currently. We need to fill it, and we have the staff, and it won't cost anything. We're already paying for it. I will not put our city on the auction block. There's certain things that are sacred just because they matter. East Middle Lane, it was here in 1803, but yet in a backroom deal we put on the auction block.
Thank you. Okay. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I would like to compliment our candidates and thank them for an excellent forum. I'd like to thank Diane Habino for her wonderful timekeeping, and the audience that is here and the audience watching on TV. You have heard 8 candidates. On November 8th, you will be voting for 4 candidates. So make your selections, and again, we don't care who you vote for, but please get out and vote. That's the most important for your candidates. So thank you again very much, and good night.